For the delay, welcome to the Big Bourbon Club. This is our fourth event. We are very excited to have one of the hottest new distilleries in America, New Riff Distilling, out of Newport, Kentucky. Patrick Spalding, welcome. Great to have you. Great to have New Riff here. Big Bourbon Club. Most of you all here in the audience know what it's about. Suzanne's waving at me. Honey, we've been married 33 years. Oh, she's telling me to push up. Sorry, I thought she was just waving at me. That's typically what happens with us. But the Big Bourbon Club, we have 3,000 members now. It's a new club. It's a virtual bourbon club, right? This is the only
It's working out really well. So we've got kind of our founding pillars laid out. So what are we going to do? We're going to make whiskey, right? Okay, fine, cool. No, but like, what are we going to do? What are we trying to accomplish? And our mission statement at New Riff is really one sentence long. It's to one day be considered among the great small distilleries of the world. Not the most profitable, not the number one. We're not out for world domination. We want to one day be among the great small distilleries of the world. The beauty of that is, when do you know? When are you there? And we're probably never there. We're going to keep working towards it every day. So it's a noble cause for sure in the whiskey world. But then again, how are we going to pull that off? What's going to be the approach? And you'll see on the back of our bottles a new riff on an old tradition. You'll see it on some of the swag, some of the stickers we've got laid out. It's marketing. I'll grant you that, right? But it is truly our approach to this thing every single day. We have an immense amount of respect for American whiskey. And we have mountains of reverence for all the great whiskey houses that came before us. You know, I don't need to run down them. Four Roses, Heaven Hill, Buffalo Trace, et cetera, et cetera. There's tons of them. So, you know, we have kind of a two-pronged approach here. We don't want to come out and be new and splashy and get weird and kind of bastardize the category in the sake of getting eyeballs and selling some bottles, right? We have way too much respect for this industry and American whiskey. But at the same time, we don't want to simply ride the coattails of all those great houses I mentioned. You know, it would be fairly easy in today's climate. Make something brown, put it in a slick bottle, and you probably do okay, right? But that's not what we're looking to do. That's not our goal. That's not why Ken scrapped everything and started this. We want to bring something worthwhile to the table and be respectfully different where it makes sense, right? So that is the riff on the tradition, you know, a bit like a guitar riff or a riff on a cocktail, you know? So you'll see that approach across everything we do from start to finish. And the reason we're able to do that, again, is we're completely independent. We do what we think is right for the whiskey. You know, to be blunt about it, if Ken was interested in making money, he would have kept doing what he was doing. And so this frees us up to be very cost inefficient at really every stage of this process, whether it's our barrels, our grains, our entry proof, everything. It's much more about what will be better for the whiskey and what will get us closer to that goal of being a great small distillery of the world, and not so much about the bottom line, which is very important. So, folks, we're getting close. We'll have a drink here in just a second.
I just had a drink. I'm just saying.
Can't kick you out of your own party, right? So, guys, maybe one of the biggest riffs on tradition that you see at New Riff that's certainly worth mentioning is our commitment to bottled and bond. So every whiskey we make at New Riff falls into two categories. It is either a bottled and bond whiskey or it is a barrel-proof single barrel. It's very rare. You know, there's not New Riff and New Riff bonded. If New Riff is making it, it's bonded, period. The heirloom grain stuff we do, everything that we're going to release down the road, we have committed fully to the Bottled and Bond Act, which is nearly unheard of. And the reason that's so important to us is the Bottled and Bond Act, hell, guys, it goes back to 1897. but it's still the strictest quality standard in aged spirits anywhere on the planet. Nothing quite like it in Scotland, in cognac, tequila, anywhere. There are a few key points on that, but before I get technical and bore you with a little bit of bonded bullet points, I say we taste a little whiskey, right? So the first whiskey we have poured out for you guys is our New Riff Kentucky Straight Bottled and Bond Bourbon Whiskey. So in addition to being bottled and bond, which I'll get into while we sip, another very important thing you'll see across all New Riff whiskeys, we are very rye-centric. We love rye. So our bourbon is 30% rye, 65 corn, 5% malted barley. Mash bills are on the bottle, as are the age statements. 30% rye is not the highest you'll see, but it's right up there. 35, 36 is about what you'll see. There's probably somebody doing something a little bit higher, but this is a legitimate high rye bourbon. And the simplest, quickest analogy to explain what that will mean for the flavor profile of the whiskey, our Jay Ayerson, who I referenced, he had a great analogy that I steal every chance I get. You think about mash bills in the same way you think about bread. It's all being made from grain, so it makes a ton of sense, right? Bourbon, mostly corn. I assume everybody here has had cornbread. Sweet, mellow, delicious. Everybody in the South loves it, right? That's your bourbon. But in addition to corn, with your bourbon, you're either going to use wheat or rye in most instances, right? So wheat bread, usually pretty easy going, fairly mellow. A lot of your wheated whiskeys are those smooth sippers that people enjoy so much. But if you've ever had a Reuben, you know that rye bread is its own thing altogether. It's its own animal. It's got all these spicy characteristics, fruity notes, tons of character and personality. And that's what you'll see in a rye whiskey or a high rye bourbon. Helps it really sing in a cocktail. Really kind of counteracts those sweeter notes. So what we're tasting, again, 30% rye. Bottled and bond. So a few key points there, what that means when you're shopping on the shelf. Without getting too far into history here, we'd be all night. We'd be here all night.
Get into history right now. So
Okay.
Question.
There we go.
Trivia question. And if you get this right, no matter how many people get it right, you get a little red ticket. Suzanne's going to give it to you one more chance on the drawing. So who invented bottle and bond? Raise your hand. Don't yell it out. Jeff, just raise your hand first. Does anybody know who invented bottle and bond? Holy Toledo. Do you? No, he's a famous name in the bourbon industry. James. No, give me your ticket back. You lose if you didn't get. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Great guess. Brennan. No. 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 E.H. Taylor. Give the man, Suzanne, give him a red ticket. Colonel Taylor, E.H. Taylor invented bottle and bond. Patrick, you knew that.
I did.
Was that part of your presentation?
He spearheaded it. Yeah, well, no, but again, you're dead on.
What's that, Brennan?
Yeah, so the Bonded Act was actually a response to the rectification era, back when whiskey was being sold by the barrel and not the bottle. And you'd go through into your saloon with those flappy doors, and you'd sit down. They'd pour you some whiskey straight out of the barrel. Problem was, people wanted to stretch those barrels. Started to get low. They'd add a little water. It'd start looking light. People would start complaining. All right, well, then I'm going to throw some tobacco, iodine, or whatever I had laying around to darken it up and up the proof. And people were getting sick. People were, frankly, dying. Rot gut whiskey. Heard of that? But again, as history shows us, follow the money. People were giving up on American whiskey. And people with their name on those barrels, such as E.H. Taylor, their good names were being dragged through the mud. So we had to do something. Bottled and Bond Act is put into place as the first quality control / consumer protection act for a consumable product in America's history. 1897, 9.5 years before the Safe Food and Drug Act. Shows our priorities, right? We'll fix the whiskey, and then in a decade we'll worry about the poison aspirin and the rotten cabbage and all that other stuff, right? Pretty amazing. Equally amazing is how right they got it. So some of the qualifications for the Bottled and Bond Act that mean a lot today, it must be at least 4 years old. Nope. It has to be right at 100 proof. No more, no less. On the money. Has to be made, aged, and bottled by the distillery on the bottle. You cannot source bonded whiskey. So if you see bonded on a bottle, you know where you're getting it from. And you know that those folks made it. Essentially from start to finish, which I would argue is rather important. You cannot do any blending of multiple whiskeys. You know, you can't do rye and bourbon together, call it bonded. It has to be one style of whiskey. Also, sneaky important, guys, sneaky important. It has to be distilled within the same distilling season. This is key. Those distilling seasons, there are 2 of them. First 6 months of the year, second 6 months. So we cannot blend a June barrel and a July barrel, for instance, or this December with next January. Makes it, I'll put it very politely, it's difficult on the inventory side of things. But the beauty of that, it ensures everything's the same age. So your bonded whiskeys aren't, you know, half 5 year, a quarter 7 year, and then a good splash of 15 year to juice it up. That's why you'll always see an age statement on our bottles, because it's all the same age. There's no smoke and mirrors on that front of things. So it's very important. You don't have to list them anymore. That was amended back in the 70s, I think. But we choose to do it. It's the traditionalists in us. So, gotten a lot of the technical stuff out of the way, guys. Appreciate you hanging with me. Did the bourbon help you get through class? Yeah? How's it tasting tonight, right? Good? Very cool.
So holler out, what tasty notes do you get from the first expression? What do y'all get off that? James, what? Citrus? Citrus? Vanilla? Cinnamon? What else y'all get? You get the gentleman from Colorado. Honey. Y'all get a long finish or a short finish? I get a lot of long. I hear everybody saying long. I get a long finish. A little hot on the front end. Yeah. Raisins. Really? Any other flavor? Any other notes you get? Toffee. Wow. Does anybody have this at home? Does anybody have this expression? You've got it in your bar. Christian, you'll have it. Oh, I like that answer. Not yet. We may be able to hook you up here and get an autograph on it too. Y'all like it? Hallie, you keep hoping.
So guys, one thing that jumped out at me when I was first able to taste our whiskey, you know, as I said, 4 years old right now, right? I am not here to convince you all to go home tonight, find all your 8 and 9 year whiskey, and start washing your car with it. I'm not here to tell you 4 years is a sweet spot. This will get older. We're excited for it. I think we are ahead of schedule at 4 in a few ways. Couple things that jumped out to me in our relative youth. The nose, you know, we got complex, well integrated aromas when you're nosing our whiskeys. The biggest thing for me, though, actually, if I am drinking a whiskey that reads young to me, too young, it's usually on the mouthfeel. It can be thin, maybe a little disjointed, sometimes even gritty, grainy. And I think we have largely avoided that. And there are a few key things that play pivotal roles in all of that. First and foremost, guys, there's no corners cut at any stage. Our barrels are top of the line and then some. The grains, we can't find better grains anywhere. Everything's non-GMO. Our water source. Oh, got a question? So the wood, it's white oak. Now we work with two different cooperages, though. We work with Independent Stave Company. They have campus here in Lebanon, Kentucky, and Lebanon, Missouri. They're a very large operation. And then on the flip side of that, we work with Kelvin Cooperage, Kelvin with a K. They're here in Louisville. You can't get a tour all the time. If someone asks you to go see it, go see it. Take a half day. Wear some closed-toed shoes, because you could lose one pretty easy in there. It's a bit like walking through Mordor. It's beautiful. I mean, it's amazing. It's a very small craft cooperage. But both companies do top-of-the-line work. Again, we don't cut any corners at any step. That certainly plays a role into things drinking as well as they are at 4 years. Our water supply, we pull our water right below the distillery. We have our own unique, exclusive water source. There's an aquifer that runs right along the Ohio River, which we are right up against in Newport, Kentucky. And we drilled 100 feet straight down in our parking lot and hit the water. It turned out it's amazing for making. It's got 4 times the mineral content of the city supply, which we would have had to use had this not worked out. It's big, rich water, if there can be such a thing. It's a bit hard to describe until you've tasted it. It's got shoulders to it, and that certainly carries through to the whiskey. But perhaps, maybe the most important reason why our whiskeys feel beyond their years, certainly, and we'll get into the second whiskey here shortly. And this is the biggest riff on tradition that I teased earlier. So you'll see embossed on our bottle, you'll see bottled in bond. But right underneath that, you will see without chill filtration. This is a little bit technical, but it's absolutely worth having an understanding of when you're shopping the shelves and enjoying your whiskey at home. So chill filtration is the only way in which the Bonded Act allows you to alter your whiskey. That's their word, not mine. So chill filtration is a means to a cosmetic end. It's an aesthetic process. And when it comes to whiskey, you would chill filter your products so that it doesn't cloud under a few scenarios, some more important than others. A non-chill filtered whiskey, if you leave it in your car overnight during a Chicago winter, you'll come back and it'll be very cloudy, a bit like a butterscotch milkshake. It'll taste fine. It'll just look a little weird. If you get a little ambitious with your final pour for the evening and you actually are able to leave some sitting and go to bed, that's easier said than done for sure. You'd come out in the morning very cloudy, again, very dark, kind of just unappealing looking. But most importantly, a non-chill filtered whiskey will cloud up in the same way when you add a certain amount of water to that whiskey. So that's where the real value, monetarily speaking, comes from chill filtration. Let's say, for instance, you go in at the maximum barrel entry proof of 125, and let's just say for this scenario you come out at an even 130. The minimum proof you can bottle is 80 proof. So if you take that 130 proof barrel, you can make a lot of 80 proof bottles from said barrel, and therefore more money per barrel. The profits cascade all the way through. But here comes the rub. Here's what you give up. To do that, you have to chill filter your whiskey, which pulls out all those oils and fats. And it's kind of like steak. Fat's where the flavor is, right? Or, I use the steak analogy, but there's a better one. Imagine if you make a pot of soup from scratch. You go and get the chicken, you make your own stock, all that deal. You put the stock in the fridge overnight, you pull it out the next morning, you got that fat cap on it, right? You got 2 options. Heat it back up, stir it, you're all good. You could skim it right off, put it in the trash. Yeah, right. It'll taste fine, but it will lack that rich mouthfeel, right? So, sure, question.
What about diesel oils, though? Some people say too much diesel oil in there, it's kind of a bad flavor, bourbon type thing, and that's one of the reasons Jack Daniels
Hey, Patrick, he works for Jack Daniels. Be careful.
Well, I can't speak directly to Jack and what they do, and you know, you start talking. This is a bit more of a distilling question, so to speak. I would think if you're careful through your distillation process and everything throughout, you can keep that in check a bit. And chill filtration is not the same as the charcoal filtration we're talking about. So kind of two different processes, maybe to a similar end, but different processes. So to chill filter, you chill your liquid down way low, run it through a series of fine mesh, you know, sieves, so to speak. Again, I'm simplifying it. And you pull out all those oils and fats. But what's correct? Yes, that is after you age. Yeah. Great point. Great point. But what happens when you chill filter, you know, there's an argument. Can you lose flavor? I'm not here to start an all-out war. That's a kind of an existential argument. I'm not sure any of us would win. You're going to change your flavor. I'll leave it at that. You're probably going to lighten the color a little bit. But what you're absolutely going to do is you are going to drastically change the mouthfeel of your whiskey. And in our opinion, you know, it's tough to say for the worst, but we think it's better if you leave those oils and fats in there. And that gives you that big, rich mouthfeel that we've had on these two bondeds. So we're committed to bottled and bond. And our Riff, our respectfully different take on bottled and bond, is to not do the one thing you're allowed to do. If you think of it as a corridor, bourbon's pretty tight. Bonded bourbon's very narrow. You take out chill filtration, I mean, you're boxed in, right? So whether you like us, love us, indifferent, the intent and the approach to quality is almost inarguable. I mean, it's there quite literally printed, no, not even printed, embossed on the bottle. Those bottled and bond without chill filtration will answer a lot of your questions about what is inside that bottle.
So Patrick, can
Yes,
we
sir.
ask a question from Facebook Live?
Please?
Well, now, hold on a second. Maybe I'll hold, but I wanted to are you transitioning to the rye that we just poured?
We're going to get into that bonded rye right now.
Why don't you do that first, and I'll ask the question.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So we had the bonded bourbon, and now we'll have our second bonded whiskey of the night. That is our bottled and bond rye. Guys, I'm rather partial to this. If anybody doesn't finish theirs, send it my way. As I said, I'm a Bardstown kid from the jump. I've always been drinking bourbon. And when I started this gig and I've got all the bottles at the house, I kept catching myself reaching for that rye bottle. And I almost had like a existential crisis. Like, what am I becoming, a rye drinker, you know? But I can't quit it. I can't quit it. It's beautiful. This is a unique bottle on paper as well as in the glass. This mash bill is rather unique, guys. This is 95% rye, 5% malted rye. So there's nothing but rye here. Not a lot of that. Yeah, and you know, that in itself is a bit of a riff on tradition. You know, a lot of the, you know, famous whiskeys coming out of MGP are 95.5 that we know, but that's 95 rye, 5% malted barley. And that was Larry Ebersold's, one of his greatest gifts to American whiskey. So we took his tradition and put our riff on that. So you don't see a ton of 100% rye. You don't see a ton of bottled and bond rye either. And there's very few that can say both at the same time. So this is a great one to have around, to have something a bit different. And it drinks different compared to what you might expect from a 100% rye. I tell people 100% rye and I see them wince. They're bracing. They're like, oh, this is going to be a spice bomb. And it's not short on spice, that's for sure. But it's not, the spice is not, it's not lifted. It's not at the front of your palate, the tip of your tongue. It's a broad palate, kind of slow building spice. It's got a kind of a sweet entry on it.
So what do you
amazing.
all get from the rye? Just holler out what flavor notes you get, impressions you get. Vanilla? Pomegranate? You don't even know how to spell pomegranate. Patrick, I want to apologize to absolutely fucking nobody. Sorry, that was McGregor. Any other flavor notes? What else you get on that? That is incredible. Really good.
I get a lot of really nice herbaceous notes, especially kind of that mid palate. Towards the end, you can pick up a little bit of cocoa and some orange notes. And cinnamon, absolutely.
So let me interrupt. So we have a couple questions from Facebook coming in. Number one, Patrick, Balboa Rye. Well, when is that going to become available?
It's a good question. That one's near and dear to me and near and dear to a lot of folks.
Tell everybody what it is just real quick, and then
Okay.
when it's available.
A quick aside. Yeah,
Hey, hold on. This is from Thomas Reed. By the way, Facebook Live, Thomas Reed's birthday was this week. We were going to sing him happy birthday. He was supposed to be here, but he's a no-show. But that's Thomas's question.
Happy belated, Thomas. Good question. Balboa Rye. As I said, we're very rye-centric. We love rye. A bit of a long story short, our corn farmer in Indiana, Charles Fogg with 2 G's, he grows all kinds of things. And we're up there seeing the place, chatting with him, and we start asking him about heirloom grains and things like that. And we asked him if he was familiar with Balboa Rye. He said he was. He agreed to grow some exclusively for us. And then 4 years later, we bottled and released our first run of Balboa Rye. Balboa Rye goes back to the 30s, had its heyday 40s, 50s, but to our knowledge, no one's distilled with it for at least 3 decades. And so Balboa Rye was our first release of an heirloom grain whiskey. It's 95% Balboa Rye, which is amazing. So you're truly experiencing that grain. We didn't just sprinkle a little bit in. It's essentially all Balboa Rye. It's beautiful stuff. It's beautiful stuff. It will be coming out again sometime this year. I'll leave it at that. It's a huge hit, and so now we're making more than we had in the past, but that won't do us any good till at least 4 years from now, right? But we're doing the best we can. It will always be a limited thing, something special when you see it, but we'll keep it coming. We'll keep it. It's beautiful stuff.
Patrick, any surprises for today?
It's a great segue. Speaking of Balboa Rye, someone here will leave with a bottle of said Balboa Rye. We've got it off to the side.
Big dog. We got it coming.
Woohoo! Fantastic. And someone in the audience online as well.
We have 2 bottles Patrick brought of the Balboa. It's impossible to get. One for the local audience. That's what we're going to pull a ticket for. Correct. And one for the virtual audience. We have a second question as you're tasting your rye. We have a second question from Facebook Live, if that's okay.
Please.
Sir, is she 21? Never mind, Zach. Second question. There's a rumor out there. The question is that you all contract manufacture for local distilleries. Do you all contract manufacture?
It's a great question, and we do. We actually always have. We had a sourced brand that didn't carry the new Riff name that some of you might be familiar with, OKI. And some people think that helped keep the boat afloat in those early years. Truth be told, that wasn't really moving the needle. Those were stocks that Ken bought in his years as a retailer. And what that brand did help us do, it helped us learn how to put together a good blend and market a product. But it was designed to die when New Riff came on board, and it worked beautifully. What did help keep the boat afloat, aside from Ken's prior successes, was contract distilling. Steve mentioned. You get paid right away when you do that. You don't have to wait 4 long years. So from day one, we've done a fair amount of contract distilling and still do. We do less now than we did prior, now that we've got our own revenue stream coming from our finished products, especially on the rye front. Again, folks, we are very proud of our work with rye. We take it very seriously. I don't know if you can humbly say you're among the best at working with rye, but I think we feel that way about us, about ourselves. So we do a fair amount of contract distilling, especially on the rye side of things. These are some great brands. Obviously, Can't discuss them here today. But yes.
Facebook Live has a question about one of those brands. It's a rumor. Should I bring it up or no?
You're unlikely to get a solid answer. So
Okay, well, then I won't mention anything about, never mind. I'm not going to mention it. It's just a rumor on Facebook.
I like to keep myself in the dark as much as possible, so I don't have to lie to you fine folks.
There you go. Then I won't bring up Wild Turkey. No, that's a joke, obviously.
Yeah. Turkey doesn't need a lot of help. So
What do you like? What do you like with the rye versus the bourbon? What do you like best? Raise your hand if you would prefer the rye on a day-to-day basis. Raise it real high. That's got to be half the group at least. Raise your hand on the bourbon. A lot of ryes. Yeah, more ryes than bourbon. This isn't a rye whiskey club. This is a bourbon club. Phil, question.
On the bottle and bond rye. So the rye there is nothing but rye. It is 95% rye, 5% malted rye. Yeah. First over here. Bingo. Yeah, so you are correct there. Rye is extremely temperamental at essentially every stage of the process: fermentation, distillation, things like that. There are natural and essentially inert things you can add to the fermentation to keep it from spilling over. We don't have to use it terribly often. You know, we've really got that part of the process dialed in really well. You are wise to keep it on hand, because you can have quite the mess if you're not prepared when one of those fermenters decides to get overly temperamental. But yes.
Hey, Patrick, we have another question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So before we go into the question, we're pouring the third. What is our third expression?
So the third whiskey coming around will be our barrel-proof single-barrel bourbon.
Single barrel proof. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly.
That's right.
Now we're getting into the big leagues here. The question is on Facebook Live from Russell Oakes down in Mobile, Alabama. Russell asked, what about a toasted batch? I guess he's asking if that's coming.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out all the way in Alabama. So, yeah, toasted barrels have become rather popular. Toasted barrel, essentially a finish, you know, a second aging in a toasted barrel. So we have yet to consider doing finishes on our whiskeys. That's something we are not overtly against. We tend to prefer to let our whiskey shine through, somewhat natural state. But then again, with OKI, we did some really great barrel finishes. They're a lot of fun. We needed to make sure we got the most important things right early on. So is it coming anytime soon? No. Could it come in the future? Sure.
So Patrick, how many total expressions do you have now? And if you've said this already, I apologize.
No, I don't believe I have. Total expressions, it varies. I guess it depends on what is in the market. We have 4 core whiskeys with a 5th that was essentially released this week. So we have our bottled and bond bourbon and rye. We have a single barrel version of each. And then we have a 5th expression that just hit. We'll actually taste it. It's our 5th pour that you might not have known about. And that is our 100% malted rye.
So Patrick, Bob Constantino on Facebook Live asked, at this point, what is your best seller?
Best seller. It is our bottled and bond bourbon.
Bottled and bond bourbon.
Yep. Single barrel does extremely well also, but
and how many, so that was our first taste today, right?
First taste, yep.
So how many cases of that would you all sell annually, roughly?
Well, getting into specific numbers can be a bit tough. We produce 8,000 total barrels a year, and we're holding back roughly 30% of everything to get older, which is quite the investment for a young distillery, so that we can have those older age statements. And then beyond that, we're selling up to our comfort threshold.
So what is an older aged bourbon that you all think would be really cool to release? Is it a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 23-year-old?
They all sound.
Hell, that's older than you are, Patrick.
Thank you. Yeah, we will have older age statements. What they are going to be is yet to be determined. We're going to let the whiskey ultimately make that decision for us, right? You know, there could be a 6 or an 8, a 9 or a 10. You know, we'll have to see how things age. You know, if we're ahead of schedule at 4, does that mean we'll kind of top out at 12? Yeah, we have no idea. Our oldest barrels are 7 right now, so there is still a lot to learn at New Riff. It's one of the most fun and challenging parts of it.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a taste of our third expression here? And while we do that, I've got a question.
Sure, Steve.
Patrick, tell us about the Craft Distillery Trail and your role in that.
Yeah, so we are a member of the Craft Distillery Trail. You know, it's a great portion of the Whiskey Trail. We're very proud to be a part of it. Have been essentially from the early going. And as far as a role, you know, most importantly, we try to be good stewards to bourbon in general, and especially the craft distillery. You know, the craft whiskey movement is bringing us a lot of exciting things, a lot of innovation, and a lot of good whiskey. So
you all get a ton of tours, a ton of. How many people do y'all get a year visiting the distillery in a non-COVID year? Do you know the number?
I don't actually off the top of my head, but
so
yeah,
I always thought, and this is what my question was geared towards, but I always thought New Riff was kind of the first stop of the craft tour, where in for the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, it's the Fraser History Museum in Louisville. Are you all the first stop officially, or is that just something that I've heard and not true?
I think what you've maybe heard is if you're flying into Kentucky and say you land in Cincinnati, we're the gateway to the rest of Kentucky.
So you're not officially
and the trail.
You're not officially the first stop on the craft tour.
I can't say for sure.
I don't think you are, but
Okay.
maybe that's why. What
Sure.
you just said.
Yeah. So guys, we've got single barrel bourbon in front of you. So I can tell you a little bit about that, and that'll there's a few things we can gain from that whiskey. So we had the bottled and bond bourbon. Now we're having the single barrel bourbon. Guys, those are made and aged the exact same way. Same mash bill. Same barrels. Where their paths divert is when it comes time to bottle. So with the bottled and bond bourbon, we don't say small batch on the bottle, but it could be argued it's a true small batch. I mean, we're talking 20 to 23 barrels blended for a consistent profile and then proof to that bonded proof of 100. So we're looking for consistency of quality and of flavor here. On the single barrel program, we're looking for consistency of quality, certainly, but not in flavor. Now, there's a common house style, of course, but for our single barrels, what we're looking for are any barrels that are overly expressive, giving some unique notes that we don't see in all of our barrels. Maybe one's extra smoky, or one has a lot of cherry flavor. And we will earmark those for the single barrel program. And from there, we really do our best to get out of the way of that barrel. When it comes time to bottle those, we strain out the barrel char, so you don't have to chew on it, and then it goes into the bottle. Again, no chill filtration, no water added, of course, no contact with any other barrel. So this is essentially as close as we know to get to you guys coming up to the distillery and sticking a crazy straw down in one of those barrels. This is yeah, right. Maybe in the gift shop. That'll be something we'll add sometime soon. Yeah. Sure. Question? Great question. So I got a question about the char. So all of our barrels, despite being from 2 different cooperages, all get the same treatment. First of all, and very importantly, all staves are at least 6-month air dried. We don't do any kiln drying, anything that speeds up that process. These are air season staves, at least 6 months. We're actually transitioning to 18 and 24-month staves, which are showing some beautiful, beautiful early returns. But also, every barrel is first toasted. We toast every barrel first, and then it receives a number 4 char. So we're giving that barrel quite a bit of, we're giving it the business, you know, and it gives it a lot of character to then give back to us in the whiskey. Question? Sure. Yeah. So grain question. Where do we get it, and what about it? So a few things. All grain is non-GMO. We get the best grain that we know how to find. All of our corn comes from a single-family farm in Indiana, about an hour and a half from the distillery. Single-family operation, but not a small operation. I mean, they're world-class corn farmers, for sure. We get our rye from Northern Europe, for the most part. We feel like that's where the best rye in the world is grown, so that's where we go to get it. And then malted barley is sourced through Brooks Grains. They're out of the Dakotas, and they get their malted barley from a few different sources. But all non-GMO, and also cleaned grain, which you maybe haven't heard a ton about. We're not hosing it down with soap and water, but what we are doing is we are running it through a series of mesh. Imagine a shaker about as big as your car, and you shake out all the small stuff first, all the pebbles and sand and anything that could get into that grain, and then you shake out all the big stuff, the corn stalks, rocks, things like that. So when we empty a fermenter, it's almost spotless. And some others you might find gravel and pieces of corn stalk and things like that. So everything we know to not just acquire the best grain, but improve it from that point, we do.
Hey, Patrick, I'm sorry, Brendan, quick question from Facebook. Is the single barrel a 4-year-old as well, from Scott Ridenour up in the state of Washington?
State of Washington. Nice. Some great Cab Franc up there.
I think it's the country of Washington. Trivia, does anybody, hey, if you get this right, trivia question. We're back to history. You better be quick on this. Don't pull a muscle on this one. Does anybody know the state of Washington, who it was named for? Oh my God, are you all stupid? Come on. George Washington, right? Thank you very much. Suzanne, give him a red ticket. It was so easy, everybody thought it was a joke. No, it was Bobby Washington. He played for the Pittsburgh Pipers.
Okay, so the question from our friend in Washington, is the single barrel a 4-year? The most correct answer is yes, but they do vary a bit. Some push 4.5 and a little bit beyond. It really comes down to when they're bottled. Yes, sir.
So the single barrel, how consistent is that? So if I bought a barrel today and I bought a single barrel 6 months from now, how consistent is that flavor?
So a question on how consistent the flavor profile is from barrel to barrel. And very, very little, actually. Now you can, there is our house style, if you will, but we see a ton of barrel variation from one to another. It keeps things very exciting. It also makes you, when you find one you really love, you nurse it a little bit, right? You hide it. I've got a couple that I have hid from myself in the basement. Give it to my wife, say, put this somewhere I won't find it, because that's the beauty of a single barrel. There will never be another one quite like it. But our program, we see a ton of variation, actually. I hesitate to say more than most because I don't know other programs as well as I know this, but very diverse single barrel program. Great question. Another question. So a question, do we age our own whiskey? Absolutely. So we are a nose-to-tail, grain-to-bottle operation. We mill our own grain, make our own whiskey, age our own whiskey, bottle our own whiskey.
Do you age it in Newport?
We age it in Newport. It's we have a campus about 5 minutes away from the distillery.
So You age on campus.
Yes, on campus. Same campus that holds our bottling line and our shipping department, all of those things. Essentially everything but the distillery.
So have we discussed tasting notes of our third one yet?
I don't believe so.
All right. So everybody drink up.
Yeah, guys, every barrel's different. So I can't really I can't tell you what you're tasting. So
This is our
you've
single
gotta tell
barrel
me.
bourbon.
Single barrel bourbon.
Patrick, what proof is it, did you say?
So all right, so I got a great question. What proof is that single barrel?
That was mine, not Facebook Live.
Yeah. So all New Riff single barrels are barrel proof. And that's the only reason they're not bonded, because they're over 100 proof. But they do always vary. But that's a great segue into something that's very important, actually, in your whiskey. We go into the barrel at 110 proof, which is significantly lower than the maximum that's allowed. You can go in as high as 125.
What does it go in at?
It goes in at 110.
110.
110 proof. All whiskeys go in at 110.
So
Yeah,
you're
great
proofing
question.
down before you go in.
Yeah, so there's a couple of interesting things about that. You can go in as high as 125, and as we talked about a bit earlier with chill filtration, that can yield greater profits. Now there's also a flavor component to that. A higher proof whiskey that goes into the barrel will pull different flavor compounds out of that barrel than one that's a bit lower. So we're not the lowest in the industry, but we're down there, and we certainly leave a lot of money on the table doing it that way. You essentially have two questions to ask yourself if you're going to be, if you're going to proof your whiskey down at all. You can add water before the barrel does its thing or after. And, in truth, it's a little bit on both, but you can pick how you want to weight that. We like to go in at 110 for a few reasons. The water-soluble compounds in those barrels will net the flavors that we're seeking. But also, we couldn't come out too high of a and then get to that bonded proof of 100 without clouding up, because, again, we're not chill filtering whatsoever. So the single barrels that we bottle typically range 103. Some go down that low, and some push 115. We see a lot of good variation in that respect as well.
Brennan? Yeah, go ahead.
Protein I can't speak directly to, right? In certain, sugar is an important thing, right? Corn has a high amount of sugar, so you can net a high proof distillate that way. And then on the malted grains, you're looking for starches that can break down into sugars to then turn into alcohol. Protein, I'm certain, plays a role, but that's a bit above my pay grade, to be totally honest. It's a great question for Brian Sprance, though.
Any other questions? Brennan?
Do we sell or distribute in Ireland? No, sir.
Are you overseas anywhere?
We are barely overseas. We do a little bit of work with the UK currently, but that's kept at a very small number. Again, we try to be very careful to make sure we're supporting all of our markets fully, especially Kentucky. We prioritize Kentucky supply above all else. You guys make it tough on us sometime, but we'll take that problem.
All right, so Greg has a question. Before we go there, Patrick, what's the fourth expression that's being poured right now?
Fourth whiskey coming around, folks. Single barrel rye. So as much as I love that bonded rye, I can find a single barrel that will make me stray a bit. Exact same mash bill, guys. Same relationship to the bonded rye that single barrel bourbon had to the bonded bourbon. Same mash bill, same aging regimen, but then no blending whatsoever. Again, no chill filtration, no water added, unadulterated, barrel proof rye whiskey.
Greg, can you spell unadulterated? It's no, I was talking to Greg Cossey. I know Greg Bridgman can. So, hey, Greg Bridgman, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I was telling Greg earlier. Greg and his wife Hallie, you know Hallie too. Greg and Hallie, like Sally, just drove in from Fort Knox. They're not members of the club, but they wanted to kick the tires. So thanks for coming in. Greg was on the ground in Afghanistan on 9/11. 2002, 1 year.
Wow.
Stand up, Greg.
Yeah.
Stand up.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's all right. We're all friends, man. I was telling Greg about
Thank you.
Horse Soldier last month, and he goes, I know all about it. I was on the ground right after them a year later. So he's still in the Guard. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it very much. So it's our privilege to be with you. But our transition is you have a question that you were going to ask. Greg.
I'll give it a shot. I promise not to BS you. So, second distillation on heads and tails question. So we work on a column still. So the heads and tails situation changes quite a bit, right? So we work on a Vendome column still. We have a doubler.
We have let me interrupt. Is anybody in here related to Vendome, the founder of Vendome Copper? My wife, Suzanne, stand up. I'm just pimping, I'm just promoting. All right. My wife is the great-great-great-granddaughter of Elmore Sherman, the founder of Vendome. Sorry.
Very cool. Very cool. So we work with a doubler, which handles that second distillation, if you will. So not a lot of heads being cut there, but technically speaking, that doubler will take some of those tails. Correct. Yeah. So I kind of got that one. Yeah. But no, we do have a pot still, and that's where we make our gins. But all whiskeys run through the column still. Yes, sir. Single barrel rye, guys. Again, full barrel proof, non-chill filtered. These can be wildly different from each other.
So
what's our proof here, Steve?
This is 105.9 single barrel rye. What do you think? What are you getting on it? I got 2 thumbs up. Excellent. Any notes? Brennan likes it. The Irishman over here. Anybody else? What do y'all think? Cinnamon. Anybody get any citrus notes? Hallie like Sally. What do you get, hon?
Not citrus, like the flesh, but like almost sweet bitter.
Oh, wow. Sweet bitters. Yeah. does to
Absolutely.
me. Yeah. Any other notes you all get? Isn't this rye and the other rye, aren't they great? Really, really, really good stuff.
The ryes could be, most likely, our most critically acclaimed to this point. That bottled and bond rye, we were proud and elated to see number 17 whiskey in the world by Whiskey Advocate 2020.
And I do believe, I know for a fact that several of these expressions went out to San Francisco and won gold medals.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. You teed that up nicely, actually. Our first submission to...
Well, hell, we talked about this last night. You told me to say it. That is not true. I just knew it because I knew it.
Checks in the mail, Steve. Yes, actually. I'll brag on ourselves for a minute. Our first submission to the San Francisco Spirits Competition, considered to be the show, we submitted everything we had bottled at that point. So bonded bourbon, single barrel bourbon, bonded rye, and then both of our gins, our wild gin and our barrel-aged gin. All 5, double gold, first try.
Excuse me, was that double gold?
Gold.
No, double gold. Thank you very much. All right, so let me do this. Let me transition. You've got a special 5th expression here we're going to talk about in a second. But before we go there, Kyle Irvin, we're going to talk about sponsors. I'm going to announce to Facebook Live. We got hundreds of people on there talking, and we're going to announce to them our sponsors as a reminder. Kyle, we good to go? So first of all, hey, Doug Wise. Hey, Rock. Hey, Rock, stand up, man. So our CPA, our official CPA partner is Blue and Company, a large regional CPA firm based out of Indianapolis, but a huge center of influence right here in Louisville. But they represent like 16 distilleries across the country. They're an official sponsor of Big Bourbon Club. Doug, thank you very much. We also have Wesley's Wicks, Justin's House of Bourbon, and the Whiskey Grail. And if you were online, you would see all of their fancy logos. And we have several partners. We have Bourbon Women. Hallie, you're familiar with Bourbon Women, but Bourbon Women is a big partner of ours. Whiskey Army, Silent Wolf Productions. I cannot read my writing. Good granny. Tag Your Swag. Fraser History Museum, that's what that says. So we have a lot of sponsors. We have a lot of partners, and without them we couldn't do this. We appreciate it. And all right, let's go to, we have not poured the fifth yet, have we? Do you want to, have we talked about notes on the fourth?
I think so.
All right.
I can speak on the fifth while it's going around.
Well, let's talk about the fifth. Sorry about that. All right. Lee, whenever you are ready.
Right. I thought we were friends. Okay, guys. I do have something seriously rather exciting for you guys tonight. For the first time in public. First time.
Hey, listen up. First time for the Big Bourbon Club.
Big Bourbon Club.
Pay attention.
First crack at it. This is the first time I will have publicly, and really any of us had publicly shared our newest release, hit Kentucky only this week. This is our 100% malted rye. Bottled and bond, a full 6 years old.
And if you like a taste of it, get your credit cards out. It's going to be for a small. I'm just joking. Come on.
So, guys, this one has an interesting story to it. So I mentioned Larry Ebersold in the beginning of all this, and Larry, again, as instrumental as anyone in this venture. And when you're spending that much time with an all-time legend, you pick his brain any chance you get. So we asked Larry 5+ years ago, much further back than that, favorite whiskey you ever made in all those years at Seagram's. And he knew pretty quick. He said, I made some 100% malted rye in my time at Seagram's. And well, we were a bit confused. We said, Larry, we don't remember seeing that come out of there. You know, what happened? And he retorted, well, the bean counters and the accountants figured out what it costs and quickly shut that one down. Quick. Malted rye is a very expensive grain. But again, being lovers of whiskey and an independent spirit, we had to try. So we made our first small run of this whiskey early on. But then we learned quick just how expensive and how difficult that grain is to work with. If rye is very difficult, we need a different word altogether for malted rye. But we could tell it was showing great so early. We had to figure out a way to make this work. So Brian Sprance, with his brewing background, worked out a direct import situation with a maltster out of Bamberg, Germany. So we direct import malted rye on a very regular basis, and that makes it a bit more, or a bit, less painful on the pocketbook. We are absolutely in love with this whiskey. We wanted to give it a full 6 years before it came out. This could end up being a bit of a crown jewel for us. Does everybody have it in their glass? Okay.
No, sir.
So
no, sir, in Kentucky.
we spoke on the flavor profiles of rye, right? Spicy, bold, fruity. So is malted rye extra bold, spicy, fruity? And we found out that's not the case. This malted rye is it's refined, dare I say a bit elegant. It's a bit softer, while being still extremely complex. I would imagine it's rather different than anything you're used to tasting. This is not bourbon. It is not rye. Malted rye is its own whiskey for sure. This was bottled less than a month ago, and it will not be released outside of Kentucky until sometime this fall. Got a question?
Did you all go to Manitoba, Canada, to do any research on the Manitoba, Canada? Did you all go up there and do research on 100% rye?
Did we go to Manitoba, Canada to do research on 100% rye? I don't believe so. I mean, we've got Larry on board for the rye front. We leaned on him. Now, was there a trip taken? Could have been. I wasn't fortunate enough to go. Certainly.
So what do you think? What do you think of the malted rye released? Come on, man. Your thumbs have been up for about 2 hours. You've been giving everything the thumb. Huh? Yes, you do. Hold on. Hillary, go get your iPad. We got a new member here. What do you all think?
I just had a question.
Patrick, I swear to God, when you came here, you raised the IQ level of this collective group by 50 points. This is not a smart group, but they're fun. What do you think of the malted rye? Greg, you like that? Really good? Love it, hands down? Thumbs up?
Yeah, so mash bill 100% malted rye, into the barrel at 110. It's bottled in bond, guys.
100 proof.
100 proof. Non-chill filtered.
So hey, let's do a cheers for Patrick and New Riff for break. I did not know this morning.
I need whiskey.
All right, hold on. Carter,
Who's got a bottle?
hey Carter, Lee, can you pour Mr. Spalding here?
Can't toast
Our
without
host.
whiskey. It's bad luck.
That's
It's just
right.
Flat
That's
out
right.
rude, frankly.
Well, I'm from Hikes Point. It's not rude. It's just bad luck.
Thank you.
Thank
guys,
you, Lee. All right. So you want to give a toast?
Oh no, toast away.
So listen. So honestly, I did not know till today that Patrick was going to bring to the Big Bourbon Club this new release. Let me get on. Watch out! I'm getting on camera. When Suzanne got here, she said, "Why did you hire a model?" I said, "I didn't. He's with New Riff."
You make me blush, Steve.
No, no. She said you were a shoe model. It's not that big of a deal. Just joking. I'm just joking. Suzanne's blushing. So, in all seriousness, Patrick brought a very special bottle for us for the Big Bourbon Club for the release. Thank you so much. New Riff, obviously you've had it tonight. You've had multiple expressions, but it's one of the hottest distilleries in America. They're doing it right. They're doing it organically, and we're so proud and excited to be here with you. So thank you so much. Cheers, Patrick, and cheers to the New Riff
Thank
team.
you.
Here, here. Look at that. Look what Lee and Carter at 1 ounce. How about that? Hey, Carter and Lee, get up here. Here to the middle. So we've got some twins here. Carter and Lee. Lee, get up there. So tip your waitress as well, Carter and Lee. Are you all twins? I'm sorry, mama and daughter. They've done a great job, and they poured so far the best pours we get, so thank you all so much. Tip the ladies well tonight, okay? We're not done yet, but when it's time, tip them well. Thank you all. You all have done a great job.
And
One thing,
Yes, sir.
I really want to compliment you. My table, everyone else, this last product, superior product. You all have hit a home run on this. Great job. This is absolutely outstanding.
Thank you.
What's the cost on it?
thank you. So suggested retail will be $59.99.
You're giving it away.
Yeah.
This is at minimum $100 bottle of bourbon. Absolutely outstanding.
And it's worth mentioning, guys, for folks that enjoy this. Kentucky only release in the spring. It'll probably go pretty quick. There's more coming in the fall. This is a true line extension, albeit a bit limited. This will keep coming around.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. So get some, share it, go back and get some more. It rolled out in some trucks Tuesday of this week. So it's
So it rolled out Tuesday. It rolled out
the line.
Tuesday. You were the first to see it. Okay, so let me interrupt you guys, ladies. Isn't it good? Isn't it good? So can I introduce the guest real quick? Let me introduce the guest. I've had somebody in the back say absolutely. So has anybody heard of the James Beam Institute partnership with the University of Kentucky? Greg has. Raise your hand if you've heard of the James Beam. By the way, if you extrapolate, that's Jim Beam Institute, who sponsors the University of Kentucky through the School of Engineering, a research institute, a certification program. Have you all raise your hand if you've heard of this? All right, well, you're getting ready to hear about it. Betsy Davies has come in from Lexington as an employee of the University of Kentucky School of Engineering. Do we have any graduates of the College of Engineering? Stand up, Jack.
Steve, is she of legal drinking age?
Hey, Jack, don't stand up if your grade point's not over 2.3. Animal House, 0.0. You have no grade point. Jack's an engineering graduate from UK. Betsy, welcome. Thank you for coming. And give everybody a couple of minutes of what's going on.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I will pay you later for that, so thank you. So the question I always get when I tell people that we have a research institute for bourbon at UK is, what does it do? Like, what is it about? It's the best question, and the answer is a great answer. So the James B. Beam Institute partnership was formed with UK in 2019. And the primary purpose and mission is honestly to preserve.
Hey, everybody, can you all hear okay?
Okay.
Hold on. Gentlemen.
Let me try again.
Gentlemen, hold on.
All right.
Just let Betsy give her talk about what Jim Beam, thank you.
Let me back up. Thank you. So I will be quick, I promise. And then you guys can find me later if you want to know more. But the James B. Beam Institute partnership was formed with the University of Kentucky in 2019. The primary goal is one I think you will all get behind. It is to preserve the bourbon industry. It is to promote the welfare and prosperity of the bourbon industry. And we're doing that across the colleges. We've got business, we've got agriculture, we've got engineering, and other colleges involved in research, education. Obviously, James Beam is a primary partner, but any bourbon company, distillery can get involved with research. The coolest part is that we have classes not just for students. We have online classes that have gone live in the last year. This is a young program and it's continuing to grow. But our guest lecturers include the master distillers from many of the bourbon distilleries you are familiar with. And we are going to have on campus at UK. That's kind of my favorite part. I'm looking forward to events there. So if you're a tailgate fan, watch out. In the future, we will be seeing you. But you can get involved as a non-student. We have online classes. We have seminars. There are videos that are already on the website. If you are interested, literally you can just Google UKY James Beam Bourbon Institute, and it'll take you to our page. The URL is too long to share with you, but it's a lot of fun. They're working on problems that cross all the research areas that will hopefully keep our bourbon industry strong for a long, long time. Everything from preserving the white oak for those barrels we love to corrosion issues with the bands. I can get deep into the research. It geeks me out. I get very excited about it. So I won't bore you. Find me later if you want to know more. But we would love for you to spread the word. Check out our videos. Check out the seminars. It's a great opportunity for Kentucky to keep the bourbon industry strong for many, 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 many decades to come through research, and we're having fun with it. That's the other part.
Any questions for Betsy? Any questions? Go Cats.
Yes, go Cats. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Steve.
So much. Hey, thanks. Pamela, thanks for coming with Betsy.
She asked, do you like bourbon?
Pamela's a designated driver. Pamela's the Uber driver. We are really running towards the end of the program. We've had all of our tastings. We've heard all the BS. But a couple of things coming up. So, you know, the Big Bourbon Club, we bring in a distillery or a brand monthly, right? This is our fourth one. Next month, who do we have? Does anybody know? Heaven Hill. We actually, it was originally Woodford, and we've switched dates, but it's Heaven Hill now. Thank you very much. So Heaven Hill on July 17th will be here, and we're going to have some surprise selections. I think you'll like them a lot, and they're also going to be a real surprise because I have no idea what they are, but I just think you'll like them a lot. Heaven Hill will be here in July. We're going to have Uncle Nearest coming up from Lynchburg, Tennessee in August. We've got Old Forester in September. Who do we have in October? You may know? Woodford Reserve. And we have Knob Creek coming up in November. We have 10 barrel picks underway. We've already actually executed 3 of them. We've done a barrel pick with Luca Mariano. Have you heard of Luca Mariano? Raise your hand if you heard of. I got the local pro here, Greg here. Luca Mariano is incredible. They just purchased 100 acres in Danville. They had a big, they're going to build an amphitheater, a distillery. It's going to, in 15 years, you will not believe what they've done. But we did the pick, Cress and I did, with Ed Comfort, our executive steward friend from Danville, and it is as good as any bourbon I've ever had. It's a butterscotch bomb. That comes out in about 3 weeks. We have a Woodford Reserve pick, and we have a Knob Creek pick, right? So we have a Maker's Mark pick, which we haven't done yet, but we'll invite some big Bourbon Club members, Top Shelf members, to go down to Loretto. It'll be an incredible event. We got about 15 more, or about 10 more. It's going to be great. And Patrick said they're fully allocated on their picks. We wanted to get one, but they were just booked up. There's so much interest here. But we'll get on their counter for next year, and hopefully it'll work out where we can get in there next year. But with all of that, yes, sir. All right, Cress, we made $125. Ba-bam! Thank you, thank you. So raise your hand if you're not a Top Shelf member. Raise it, be proud. That's okay. That's right. Some of you guys live in different states and all. Some of you live a mile away, but that's okay. We'd love to have you join if it makes sense. If not, we have a free membership. You're welcome to join. We'd love for you to do that. We're the only virtual bourbon club on the planet. We have about 400 different engagements on our app every day. 400. So this thing's growing. We're going to have 5,000 by the end of the year, and Chris told me we need to have 10,000 by the end of 2 years. So we're working hard on that. So with all of that, let's close with Patrick for coming out, leaving his family on a Saturday to present new Riff to us. Patrick.
We're doing this.
Thank you. And so Patrick's going to do the drawing for the bottle of
Balboa Rye.
Balboa Rye. Is anybody interested? Does anybody want to give their ticket away? Does anybody want a history question trivia to get to earn a chance? Hallie, like Sally. I will never forget that. I know it. Greg's told me 7 times, but I got it now. Okay, so let me think. So who was, I'm just making shit up, all right? I'm just making this shit up. Who was, no one from the Pikers can answer this. Do not answer this question. No.
Do we get a ticket for not answering?
Yeah, you get a ticket for not answering, and if you get this right, you get 5 tickets. This is Civil War trivia. All right? Cress, you can't play either. Suzanne, you can't play. You know this answer. All right, in all seriousness, here's the question. You get 5 tickets in here if you get this right. Do not cheat, Pikers. Who was the lead cavalryman for Robert E. Lee that always led with a feather in his hat?
Yes, raise your hand.
Jeb Stewart.
I got 5.
Our son is named Jeb.
What's your name? Vern? All right, Vern, hold on. Are you serious? All right, I'll give you 3 each. Does anybody know who Jeb Stewart is that didn't hear the answer? I kind of think of like I'm Jeb Stewart. I'm always out in front of my friends about a month. And sometimes they reel me in and find me. I'm just joking. Hold on. All right, so we're going to draw here. I'm going to put these in. Patrick, It's yours, sir, to close up.
All right, folks. Let me tell you a little bit more about what is on the line here. A bottle of our bottled and bond Balboa Rye. You cannot find this on the shelf right now. You might get lucky enough to do so in the future, but one in the hand's worth two in the bush, right? This is 95% Balboa Rye, an heirloom grain grown exclusively for New Riff. There's no one else distilling this grain today, and it just might be my favorite thing we've ever made. Really cool chance, really good opportunity here. Got a few tickets going out. I'll give it the old stir. I'll make one person happy, 40 of you very mad. Okay, I've got a question.
If I run into New Riff, tell me about truly, genuinely, what is the experience that's currently offered as far as touring and things of that nature?
So a question about tours. We are open for tours every day that we are open for business.
Do you have that rye in your store?
The malted rye? No, ma'am. Sold out.
I would drive there tonight.
Well, hopefully you don't have to drive that far. No, we do tours 6 days a week. We have them on the hour. The best way to do that is to go online. You can book your own tour. See our man Grover. He's an absolute stud. Nobody better in the business. It's a really cool experience. It's rather unique. You know, again, I'm a Bardstown guy, so I'm all for the old school heritage feel. We certainly didn't want to fake that. You know, we're modern, we're a bit urban, and that certainly shines through on campus.
So I've got about 6 more questions from Facebook Live we wrote down. Do you mind answering a few more quick ones?
Let's do it. Rapid fire.
The first question is, because a lot of the out-of-town guests didn't come in this week, would Crest Brad bring out a bottle of 10-year-old Pappy for the whole group? So that's not a question to you. Crest!
Happy to not touch that one.
Hey, I just made that up. That didn't really get. Okay, so here are the real questions. Alex Cowling, a good friend of ours from Arkansas, Little Rock, we call him Arky. What char level does New Riff use?
Yeah, we touched on that a little bit earlier. All barrels are toasted and then receive a number 4 char, regardless of cooperage.
Thank you very much. All right, Thomas Reed down in Springfield, Tennessee. This is the first event that Thomas didn't make. We call him Springy. Actually, we call him Brown Sugar. No, we do. We call him Brown Sugar. Okay, so Thomas Reed, Brown Sugar says, are you open for tours?
We are open for tours, yes.
He was already listening earlier. He knows that.
Sure,
Another
sure.
question. What is the highest proof bottle to date?
Highest proof bottle to date. I don't know the exact proof, but it would be somewhere in between 115 and 116, I believe. I don't know if
115 to 116, probably. Okay, we have one more question. Scott Ridenour out of Washington. He said he just left the protest in downtown Seattle. Come on, guys, loosen up. It's a joke. I'm sorry, got a bunch of Republicans in the house. Loosen up. Can you explain malted? What is malted?
Yeah, great question. Something we maybe should have touched on. I think we were all a little too excited to get in there and taste the stuff. So malting, again, a fairly technical subject, but to get to the core of it, to malt a grain, you begin germination, a.k.a. you trick the seed into thinking it's about to become a plant. And those enzymes begin to be released. And then before you do that by soaking your grain, dampening it, cycling that, drying it out, dampening, drying, dampening. And then before, once germination starts, then you arrest that with heat. You dry the grain out completely. And what that does is that releases all those enzymes that will then break down those complex starches into smaller pieces, turn them into sugars so that the yeast can turn the sugar into alcohol.
Okay. Any other final questions? We've got the giveaway to do. I've already selected the winner randomly. All right, hold on, Greg. Hold on, big dog. Hold on, soldier. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Is OKI going to be available again?
That's kind of an insider question.
No, not necessarily. The OKI brand has been sold. We sold that brand. So if you were to see it again, we would have absolutely nothing to do with it. The brand was great to us while it lasted. It was always designed to die on our end of things. And now that we have aged new Riff product, we no longer intended to use it. So it's been sold. Now what happens with it from there, I can't speak directly to. Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody have fun today?
Shall we draw?
Let's draw for the. Does anybody want to be part of the draw for the? Is it Balboa Rye?
Balboa Rye. Yes, sir.
Okay. Excuse me? All right, get up here, Doug. Get up here.
Come on.
So, excuse me, we always have our guest draw, but we've had some screams and shouts from the crowd for CPA, the firm of Ernst & Young, Blue & Company. So Blue & Company, oh, he's looking at his own number. Put it in your pocket. Put it in your pocket. And the Grammy goes to Marvin Gaye. Sorry, we're 30 years late. All right. Hold on.
Before I turn things over, before I lose everybody, once this happens, I do want to say a sincere thank you for coming out, spending some time. Again, hard to call it work, but it's been a great time. Appreciate it.
So let me ask you this: how many people, when they were 27 or 30 years old, looked like Patrick, besides me? A lot of us did. Yeah, we were all good looking back then, bro.
There's hope for me still.
Look what happens. All right, so we got a winner. Hey, hold on. From our official CPA sponsor, 24. Hold on, you say this shit. We practiced this last night.
246-087.
Holy shit, that was too many numbers. Say it slowly. Read it closely.
246-087.
2460. Brennan Callahan. No way. No way. Hold on. He's got to be audited. Give it to him. Big dog. Look at you. All right. And so, Hallie like Sally, I put in 32 for you. And the last one is we drew online earlier. Patrick pulled it out. And we want to congratulate Thomas Reed online for winning. By the way, it's his birthday this week. What a surprise. Happy birthday, big guy.
Congrats,
all right.
Thomas.
Thank you.
Thank you all.